Hello and welcome. Welcome to the 11th weekly rally series for the Art Rally game. This time for the April 14th leaderboard 2024. We go to Kenya in the Group 2 portion and 11. Alike, of course. Now, once again, I've done some practice. Not of this track, of course. All of these. This recording is the first time I've seen it. I don't know what's coming up next. I just do 4 stages in Germany with a 205. One of these days, it'll be what comes up, and I'll be very happy to embarrass myself. But here we are in Kenya on dirt and a lovely sunset, I think. This car I hadn't driven before, but I knew its rear engine, rear wheel drive, so I sort of knew what to expect. Good traction in a straight line from low gears, something that doesn't usually happen in loose surfaces, and perhaps a bit of tail out action with the heavier rear end that well, balances out. And it's sort of exactly what I got. Normally if you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back, good to see you again. If you watched my previous ones, I do mention every once in a while that I do like my cars with a tight rear and a loose front. And normally that leans towards understeer, but with these sort of rear heavy cars, essentially you can get away with both, I feel like. In the sense of you can throw it in, the back will try to step around, but then the front will go away, and essentially you end up getting kind of what you want anyway. But still, that kind of it's a different technique that needs getting used to it. It has advantages, and of course, if it's the first time out, it probably wouldn't be the best. It certainly wasn't, as you will be able to see at the end of the first stage. But yeah, it was fun. It was a really fun car to drive with the RR layout. It's sort of perhaps a bit tentative early on. Being well aware of my preferences and the tail stepping out nature what a heavy rear engine vehicle could produce, but I was really perhaps overestimating it, how bad it would be, and really the good rear wheel drive traction proved to be the dominant of the two characteristics. However, there were one more thing that concerned me, and that was how it would perform on jumps. Not the best, clearly. Something that was what worried me. I wasn't recovering from a wonky landing, so to speak. Wasn't the best. Wasn't something I was very good at, admittedly. And at the end of the first stage, we were 58th. Top 10%, not the best, but again, it is a Saturday recording, mature leaderboard, so I wouldn't fall much further. Anyway, moving on to the second stage, at night. Dark and dangerous, and gotta be careful. However, I wasn't, and it turned out to be a pretty decent day. For once, it sort of paid off. Another thing with the Group 2 ones that I struggle is the gearing, and I think for me it's a similar thing with Group 5s, but with different things. I'm never quite sure which gear I want to be in. Like, here I switched to 4th at 125, which I think is pretty much the red line at 3rd, so it's sort of where you kind of should be switching, changing gears into 4th. But it just bogs down so bad. It's like when you... I sometimes I even feel like it's better if you know the track well enough, it would be better to stay in third instead, because with the short enough straight you'll end up coming at it gaining like 2 or 3 kilometers an hour anyway, especially if it's uphill. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for me to show that off. And for Group 3, it's the same thing with 5th gear. Sometimes it's not as good as, it's not a good top gear. Strange way to reference it, but anyway, yeah. In hindsight, it seems kind of clear looking at it. When I was playing a couple of hours back, actually, I had a table tennis tournament to watch, the semi-finals. Well, they're still ongoing now, but it doesn't matter. The current one doesn't matter to me. But yeah, in hindsight, could have really stayed third, the second to top gear. But it didn't quite occur to me. I don't really drive Group 2 and 3 much these days. When I was going through the groups in Master Difficulty, I sort of did do that. I did figure it out for, at least for Group 3, that sometimes it's just best to stay in 4th. Because 5th gear is just really long. I would love if it could be a bit shorter. It's like, it seems like an overdrive gear, like when you're cruising down the highway and just switch into 5th to kill the revs and your speed if you're going uphill. And yeah, you could see it at the end of the straight prior. I switched it into 4th and ended up hitting the braking zone at like 100 and something teen, which is like 10k short off of the 3rd gear red line. So that is sort of plenty of time, well, I know where I lost time for once. It's not just me being kind of slow. Well, yeah, it's just me kind of being slow, but also I can see that I lost where and how. If I would come across this, I would probably, maybe, perhaps remember to be wary of the top gear for future weekly rallies. As for this one, that was not the case. It was a reacquaintancing with the overdrive final gearing, not final gear, the top gear. Not to be confused with the top of gear, which is something else. Anyway, now that I've rambled through an entire stage about gear ratios, very strange TV show. Strange ways to reference TV shows. We are at the end of the second stage, just shy of 4 minutes and 30. And how did we do for this one? We've climbed from 58th, if I recall correctly, all the way up to 34th. And we move back into daylight. I think this is sunrise. I think sunrises were the orange ones. Sort of pinkish red ones, and sunsets were the orange ones. I can never remember. Either way, it's a beautiful sight in a beautiful country. And we go through the lake. Usually the afternoon is spectacular for this course, with the contrast between the yellow dryish grass and the light blue side lakes. And of course, for this track in particular, I don't think it was this direction in particular, but the other one, where I always sort of got too carried away by going fast. Maybe it was this direction, I can't remember. Pretty much like 75, maybe even more, 90% of the time I would just throw myself into the lake for the very first braking zone, because, you know, just going fast, man, you just gotta go fast, you know. It's exciting. For once I caught myself, although this tree, wait, no, not that one, but some of them, yeah, probably earlier on, I rambled so much that I forgot to mention it. Just getting distracted by a tree in the face. But yeah, no biggie here. Just a quick little taster before the final one. And we've even moved up a few places, 31st. And for the final one, we go to the longest of the 4 on offer. And for a glorious sunny Suns at Zenith. So is the track, so is the weekly session. Just one last remaining. Time to bring it home. Also, yes, the third background gear is making excuses. Well, it's not really excuses, if I'm blaming myself. Are they? Right? Right? Anyway, yeah. A minor case of major skill issue is between switching gear, like choosing the right gear. If they're too tall, the way I normally tune cars in racing games, I don't know if it definitely isn't the optimal way, but that's the way I just prefer it. The best vibes. It feels the best way, and this is the most fun. I'm the most confident with it, but the way I usually tune my gearing, if I've got access to every gear, is that the first gear is very tall. Pretty much the least wheel spin, or rather the shortest I can get with no wheel spin, like Forza Horizon 5. That would be like, I could go between 80 and 120 kilometers in first gear, depending on the power. Essentially the tallest, or rather the shortest, without redlining, sort of spinning the wheels, smoking tires, that kind of thing. And then the rest of them are really quite short. Essentially just, I don't know, maybe like 20-30k. Very short, very similar. Essentially giving you plenty of variety between which gear you're in. I will admit that it's probably not optimal, but it feels good. The low gear traction is wonderful. You can just leave corners at, you can just mash the throttle and just grip. The car will grip. It won't spin the rear, slide the rear. But it can do that if the desire arises. Obviously, that's more related to suspension tuning and diff settings rather than gearing. But it is what it is. Versatility. That's the word I'm looking for. It can be versatile if the need arises. And a very pedestrian-like water feature, water splash. You don't really lose, you don't really gain any. You just trundle through in second gear, waiting and waiting to get back up to speed. Yeah, look at that. We were in fourth gear for what, 10 seconds, and we went from 122 kilometers to 123. So yeah, it would have really been better to stay in third. Now, it's a level straight, perhaps slightly downhill. Look at that, he didn't even drop down below 129 or 8, even though we went through a corner. And all that progress has been lost, and switching to fourth. Slowly, yeah, got to 125. And at the very end, I sort of turned in way too late and sort of paid the price. It's really annoying at the very end, and it lost me like 10 seconds. It's sort of frustrating, but what can you do? You just gotta suck it up. It was my own mistake after all, and just finish the remaining course the best I can in the highest mediocrity possible. Just one more corner left. It's really acceleration zone. Well, and yeah, fourth was again pointless. Frustratingly, we've dropped to 38th. Left to rue what could have been had I not messed up. Well, essentially a single corner lost me 10 seconds, and if you look at the online event, leaderboards, 5 to 10 seconds would have put me, I think, kind of right where I was at like 35th, 4.7 behind 34th, so I think 35th would have been good. But yeah, that was this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, perhaps even subscribe. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.